So yeah, I'm going to pause here for a moment to talk about another piece of music we're about to do. This is our first scene with Angela, and this is not the one I was talking about before, but it introduces what I think of as Angela's theme. There may be arguments against this, but I'll talk a little bit about why I think this particular melody is Angela's theme. And you're going to hear it right at the beginning of the scene, and you're going to hear it a few times throughout. But yeah, let's enter the graveyard. Something to pay attention to. Look at Angela's fingernails. And there's our melody.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I was just...
Hey, it's okay. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm kind of lost.
Lost?
Yeah, I'm looking for Silent Hill. Is this the right way?
Yeah. It's hard to see with the fog, but
Frame rate issues.
But I think you should stay away. This town, there's something wrong with it. And it's not just the fog either.
Is it dangerous?
There's the melody again.
Maybe. It's kind of hard to explain, but
I'll be careful.
I'm not lying.
No, I believe you. It's just... I guess I don't really care if it's dangerous or not. I'm going either way.
But why?
I'm looking for
There's the melody again.
someone. Someone very important to me.
Me too. I'm looking for my mama. I mean, my mother. It's been so long since I've seen her. I thought my father and brother were here, but I can't find them either. I'm sorry, it's not your problem.
No, I hope you find them.
Yeah, you too.
So, that melody that I kept pointing out throughout the scene. Oh, we're in F. I got it right on the first try. Sweet. We're in F minor. That's not the direction I wanted to put the octaves. I'm using a, 3-octave MIDI keyboard, and so I keep having to press the up and down octave buttons to get in the octave that I want to be in. This only makes sense to anyone who's familiar with playing an electronic keyboard, but whatever. That is the melody that you hear come up so often in this piece of music. In the remake, what is it called in the remake? I would bring up the spot. Hold on, I can bring it up on my phone. If I brought it up on the computer, then it would screw up my whole display here. Yeah, in the original, this piece of music is called Forest, and in the remake, it's called What Lurks in the Forest. There are a lot of pieces that were re-recorded for the remake that are different in certain ways from their counterparts in the original soundtrack, and so they either gave them slightly different names, like What Lurks in the Forest, or they just put 2024 in parentheses to distinguish them from the original soundtrack. And here's the thing about this melody. That is the way that it is played. It's played on a Rhodes piano tone, which is an electronic keyboard. It sounds like a Rhodes piano to me. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't that, or some sort of Rhodes sample patched. But hearing it on a regular piano tone, you can probably guess where I'm going with this and see where the connections are if you have played Silent Hill 2 before, or if you've listened to the soundtrack before. There's a scene later in the game with Angela and James, where the piece Promise Reprise plays. And that is that famous piece that I was talking about before, the one that starts off with a... And we're in G minor for this. But since everything's mathematical, there's that melody that we just heard. We heard it in F minor on the Rhodes piano with just kind of a loose orchestration and chord progression in the background. I think it kind of goes back and forth between like F minor, D flat, and E flat, just to give this very melancholy vibe. And then they bring that melody back in G minor for Promise Reprise. And there's the reason I'm bringing this up specifically is I, for years, have wondered why Promise Reprise plays in that scene with Angela and James later. Because Promise, as I mentioned before, I've always thought, oh, that's James and Mary's theme. Why is it playing in the scene with Angela? And then I realized we've got, in the original Promise theme, we have the that then morphs into and that's all in A minor. In Promise Reprise, in G minor, we get that same chord progression that we first heard in Promise. I like to think of that as like the chorus, because in the original rock version it's kind of structured in a verse-chorus format. So you got the as the verse, and then you got the as the chorus. So we're using the chorus chords from Promise. But now we've got this melody that was introduced in Forest, which is the rest of it isn't there, but just that. And I think there are probably reasons to believe other than what I'm about to say, but I think that melody is Angela's theme. And so the reason Promise Reprise is written and played that way during that scene with James and Angela later is because we've got the James chord progression, and then we've got the Angela melody. And it makes sense for those both be there in a scene where both those characters are. For years, I was like, why is this piece played this way in this scene? Why is it called Promise Reprise? And I think that's why. And the reason I'm convinced that that is Angela's theme is, one, because it's introduced in the first scene that we have with her, but also, for anyone who's played Silent Hill 4, you may be familiar with a piece called Room of Angel. There's also a piece on the Silent Hill 2 soundtrack called Angel's Thanatos. I have always associated those pieces with Angela because there are a few places where when they're naming the songs on the soundtrack, they kind of are just left of center of the character name. Like we have Magdalene, which we'll talk about later, plays after
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway?
And I've always thought, and particularly in the remake, Magdalene becomes like a theme for Mary. Mary Magdalene, there's the association. Angel, I've always thought of as Angela's theme. Room of Angel is a song from Silent Hill 4, which none of these characters are present in it. James's dad is the superintendent, but that's a whole other thing. But there are songs on the soundtrack that seem to harken back to Silent Hill 2. There's a song called Waiting for You that is clearly directly connected to the whole Waiting for You from Mary's letter. And I think they took the opportunity to find an overlap between the story of Silent Hill 4 and Silent Hill 2 so they could kind of have their cake and eat it too. It's like, oh, now we're using Mary Elizabeth McGlynn on vocals. Let's write some songs for Silent Hill 2, even though this isn't the Silent Hill 2 game. But we can tie them into Silent Hill 4 by making references to rooms and stuff. Room of Angel, I think, lyrically applies to both Angela in this game and Walter Sullivan, the serial killer you learn about in this game who becomes the main antagonist in Silent Hill 4. And what is the main melody to the chorus of Room of Angel? We've got Angela's melody again. If there are any Silent Hill fans in the chat, hopefully that was a cool little musical Easter egg that I introduced you to. Might bring it up again when we actually get to Promise Reprise, but yeah, figured we're here, we've been introduced to both themes, let's talk about it now.